Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Ms. Muniz, I wanted to make a correction. It was Mr. Hayes in his testimony that spoke about the international construction and safety standards, and that this was causing some unnecessary delays between OBO and state. And so I would like to ask you, Mr. Hayes, you spoke to these international construction and safety standards causing these delays. What were those?
Well, the international standards for construction, which OBO works to and has to work to because of legislation, are the same that you would apply to Embassy Berlin or a building in downtown D.C. They require a building to be built in the way that is safe and sound for a longer period of time. The DOD regulations authorize more flexibility, especially in war zones. And we raised the issue that OBO and DS should look, and the department as a whole, look to find more flexibility to move quicker in war zone situations, more expeditiously. DOD has that authority. They have a work around for a number of international standards for specific areas like Iraq and Afghanistan.
Thank you. Mr. Blanc, you spoke of land route delays, and I can certainly appreciate what a closed Pakistani border does to American anything or international anything in Afghanistan. What, though, if we should have something like this that happens again with such a large footprint now? Can you foresee a time where we would need to reduce a footprint and be streamlined to be more effective? Because now we have these 5,500 personnel, and if this happens again, which is not unlikely, and certainly those routes get interdicted, what do we do about that?
Well, sir, I think if I can say two things. First of all, even during the interdiction of those routes, both the diplomatic and the military mission were able to continue using a whole variety of creative logistics. And I think that in the unfortunate instance that this happened again, obviously we're working very hard on a relationship with Pakistan to prevent it, we would again initially fall back on some creative logistics. I think your question in principle, are there conditions under which we would look to draw down the diplomatic mission in Kabul? The answer is, of course, that we are always looking at a whole variety of questions. The immediate security situation, how effective is the team being, what specific needs do we need to fill, either in the sort of professional diplomatic service, or what might we no longer need to contract, what might be able to do on the economy in Afghanistan. Those are all questions that we address on a literal...
And I certainly don't underestimate the complexities of the problems. I guess my concern is we're seeing a pattern. We're seeing a pattern where we've become so cumbersome with it. It becomes cumbersome to get things there. It becomes cumbersome to secure things. It becomes extraordinarily expensive. It wastes resources. And I just would think that a nation of 31 million souls with the types of problems that we have, that we can be efficient. But I'm not hearing that. Instead, what I'm hearing is, in particular from Mr. Starr, which, look, everyone at this table, I have no doubt is dedicated to this nation. I mean, look at your resumes. They're not only impressive, but they're long-serving. And I have the highest respect for all of you. And you've done it from administration to administration. And for that, I sincerely thank you. But I guess the pattern that we are seeing now is just an increasing infrastructure where it just grows and grows and grows, and it requires more security and more security and more security. And the last question that I have is for Mr. Galino. I have no doubt of the ability of the Gurkhas to win almost any fight that they're ever encountered in. Language barriers. We've seen the posters, got all of that. In a no-kidding combat situation, you've got an American compound, and now you've got Gurkhas. How are you mitigating that?
In the first place, we well over 400 U.S. I didn't mean to imply by any means, I don't think I did, that we have a Gurkha workforce. We have 600 Gurkhas, you're quite right. They're selected from a wide pool
Well,
of
no, I get
candidates.
that, but how are you mitigating the language barriers in a combat environment?
And they're vetted for language in Nepal first, and then when they go through training in Jordan, in Amman, Jordan, at Kasadic training camp, we don't just train them and test their skills with weapons. We test their language understanding and their ability to speak English.
So all of these Gurkhas then are English speaking or have understanding?
Yes, sir.
So why do we need posters then?
Why do we need one?
Why do we need Nepalese posters? If they're all proficient in the English language, then why was this an issue?
Well, let me just say this. It's a requirement, and not every Nepalese Gurkha on our post can read the Washington Post either, from top to first page to the back page. I think that as a matter of policy and procedure and human rights, we should have the posting of passports in Nepali. I don't question for a minute. We should have had it from day one. We have it now, and we will going forward. Anything that we communicate to the Nepalese, we do it both in English as well as in Nepalese, including their contracts, their employment contracts.
I thank you. I thank the chairman for additional time, and I yield back.
Thank you.